Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So I got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because PlayStation 3 emulation just got a lot better. That is because of yesterday afternoon, RPCS3 has upgraded itself with one of the biggest updates I've seen in a while from them. It went from 0.39 to 0.40, and if you know anything about software design, when you go from a 0.39 to a 0.40, it isn't just 1/100th of a number, it is absolutely signifying that this is going to be a brand new, bigger version of whatever it is you're working on. And honestly, there's so many changes in RPCS3 today, it's going to absolutely be a massive improvement across the board. And you'll see here, if you don't follow RPCS3's Twitter, there's going to be a metric crap ton again of changes. 279 new commits, 342 source code files edited, as well as 90,000 new lines of code, and some have been removed as well. And that kind of is the evolutionary development process of something like RPCS3 with PlayStation 3 emulation, and even if it isn't done, in some instances you'd have no idea this was still in development. Before you get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But some of the improvements in games are going to include Killzone 2, and that I would say is probably my favorite first-person shooter on the entirety of the PlayStation 3. And honestly, this generation of hardware, I absolutely love it, and I think it has some of the best style of these games, kind of the classic boomer shooter along with a little bit of the more modern FPS. And even if Killzone 3 isn't going to be perfect, it is going to be so much better. And if you know me and you know the channel, you know I love talking about how things actually get done. It is more fun for me to talk about improvements and how emulation or different hardware actually gets made than it is to play the final product. And it is one of those things, some of these glitches could be resolved by going deeper into the RPCS3 menu, but I like to show what happens if you just download the update or install RPCS3 and then go ahead and run games. And if you need a PlayStation 3 emulation guide or an RPCS3 guide or tutorial, check my Emulation Night School playlist because I do have them on there as well. But honestly, this is why retro gaming is making a comeback, and yes, in some instances I would consider PS3 to be retro. You'll see here from the RPCS3 YouTube channel that I've linked below, lights are now working more correctly because of course in real life, light doesn't usually shine through a wall. And you'll see here when I go back to Killzone 2 in that exact same area, the lights are no longer coming through the wall there. It was a very small thing, but it is illusion breaking. What that means is when you're playing a video game, you don't want to see glitches or errors that make it seem not like the real world. Because even if it isn't a big deal, your brain knows that lights don't go through walls, so when you see it happen in emulation, you think to yourself, well, that's not supposed to be there, and it takes you out of the game, and that suspension of disbelief kind of gets a little bit obscured. So this is definitely a very fundamental update, and I recommend everyone check it out. Now I'm going to go deeper into what a lot of the different updates are doing, but again, PlayStation 3 emulation keeps getting better basically every single update, and it is so impressive that the emulation is this good, because it really isn't like PS3 is that old, even though honestly it's old enough to make me start feeling old. This is complicated hardware with the cell processor and everything else on board on the GPU and audio side of things, so the fact that we can even get this performance out of something like PlayStation 3 emulation is wild to me. And just so you know, for a baseline, I'm using an i9-12900K, a 3080 Ti, and 64GB of DDR5 RAM, which basically makes me a Rockefeller when it comes to my financial independence at this point in time. But all jokes aside, moving into Midnight Club LA here, a game that doesn't really get mentioned in the updates, but one people have been commenting on a lot is the wanting to see a recomp of. And as far as PlayStation 3 recomps or PC ports right now, you guys always ask about them, not really any huge movement on that side, but hopefully maybe later on this year something might pop up. But in the meantime, of course, we have RPCS3 to keep that dream alive, and it does such an incredible job. And that really is the fun part about emulation in 2026. We are in a new golden era of emulation and a new golden era of retro gaming. And even though nobody can agree whether or not the PlayStation 3 or 360 could be considered retro, you can definitely debate it in the comments. Just remember, it's for fun. Don't get angry about it because it really doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. It is just an opinion. Let's go into the first of two soundtrack samples so you can see and hear how good RPCS3 is in the 0.40 version. And I'll be right back. And had I not taken the shortcut there to go through some plate glass to see how that worked in the emulation, I would have been able to win this race, but I went the long way around, basically making that a long cut, not a shortcut. But Midnight Club LA has always had a vibe to it, and honestly it's one of those games where the bloom of this generation actually looks relatively good, and it's running relatively stable on RPCS3 as well today. But moving back over to some of the information, you're going to see this is now 0.40. Now I get it's 0.0.40. I'm just kind of truncating the numbers there because that gets a lot to say in a video. And there's going to be an epic metric crap ton of updates here. Some of them are going to make perfect sense to you if you read them. Some of them are basically going to sound like they are written in an alien language. It just depends on your overall knowledge and information about how these things work. But I did leave a link in the description below to the GitHub as well, so you can kind of go through and see what's going on along with RPCS3's own video. Because you'll see here in 0.40, water is going to be fixed across a bunch of different games, and that must just be a specific call to the GPU on the PlayStation 3 side of things that was not transposed or emulated correctly into modern hardware. Because the reality of the situation is your AMD or NVIDIA GPUs work in a fundamentally different way than the GPU hardware on PlayStation 3. Now of course they all accomplish the same goal, they just do them differently. Now moving over to Resistance 2, I would say a very fun franchise that doesn't quite hit as much as Killzone for me, but you can leave me a comment down below and you tell me, Resistance or Killzone when it comes to PlayStation 3 first-person shooters. And don't get me wrong, I think this game is absolutely straight up amazing as well, but once they get to Resistance 3, I kind of dropped off from the franchise just a little bit. But honestly, the performance again you can get out of RPCS3 is definitely getting so much better. And again, it's one of those things, you don't need to have the most expensive, most powerful computer out there, you just also can't have a rotten potato. You probably need something more like some of those artisan potatoes that you buy at the farmer's market that are like $10 for a pound. But my point really is, as long as you don't bring the most low-level, low-spec PC to the party, you should be able to get some decent results here. And again, I am bumping some of the resolutions to make PlayStation 3 look even better. And that really is the fun thing about RPCS3. You can push it beyond what a stock system would do, and I like doing that for captures because of course I have a little bit of horsepower overhead when it comes to my spec. But the last time I tried to play Resistance 2 on RPCS3, and it has been some time, it basically struggled to run. Now you will see here again every once in a while a graphical glitch, and some of that can be fixed up by going deeper into the settings menu. You always want to take a look at the wiki to see what users have reported as the primary and optimal settings to make sure each and every game runs well on its own specific case-by-case basis. But I like showing just the vanilla settings to talk about the fact that you need to do that, because if I fixed everything before the capture, then it would be a lot stranger for me to talk about how to find the right settings for it. So just remember, every single game you should go over to the wiki and see if there's any specific settings you need to change. But Resistance 2 is going to have the lighting fixes, the water fixes, and better performance as well, and that definitely is a straight up win in my book, because again, one of the best first-person shooters of the PlayStation 3 era. We're going to go into our second soundtrack sample, and I'll be right back with more.
Grab the bullseye off that hybrid.
So yeah, it looks great, sounds great, and performs great on my system. Now do be aware when you upgrade, I do recommend you do it when big versions come out, but some regressions can happen. So if you're midway through a game, you're trying to finish that playthrough, but having a metric ton of fun, maybe it is best just to wait until you finish that actual playthrough before you go ahead and update. Because even though regressions aren't that common, I don't want to make anyone get bummed out if they actually download the update and they find out that something isn't working that used to be working before. Because that is the thing, until there is a 1.0 version of RPCS3, and honestly we could be years and years off from that actually happening, every single update could regress a few things. But honestly, PlayStation 3 emulation keeps getting better, and I can't wait to see what RPCS3 brings next, because trust me, this is a big update. I'm absolutely stoked to see it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Let me know if PlayStation 3 could be retro or not, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.